One shotgun on this list does everything a bird hunter needs for about $1,000. Another one, at more than twice the price, can't even chamber a goose magnum. The spec sheets won't warn you about that. Every one of them reads like the perfect gun, cut recoil by this much, cycles that much faster, runs 1,000 rounds without a cleaning. So today I'm ranking this year's best hunting semi-autos from worst to first by one hard test. Can it kill ducks, kill upland birds, and kill turkeys without failing at any of the three? Some of these can't take the big 3.5-inch goose load. Some are too heavy to walk behind a dog all day. Some choke on a light dove shell. And along the way, I'll tell you which numbers on that spec sheet are real and which ones are a marketing department talking. One rule up front though, because it's the whole point of this list. Every gun here is the best at something. I know that, and I'll give each one its due as we go. But best at one thing isn't the test. The test is the question you actually face at the counter. If you could carry only one gun into duck season, upland season, and turkey season, which one would it be? That's what I'm ranking. Let's start at the bottom. Number 13, the Savage Renegauge. And I want to be fair to it right out of the gate, because this is not a bad gun. It just happens to fit the fewest of our three worlds. It's an all-American gas gun with a clever dual-valve system, and the field reviews on how it shoots are real and earned. One crew called it the softest recoiling 12-gauge they had ever tested, with 0 cycling failures across 70-plus birds in the field. Another said it cycled low energy loads better than any autoloader he'd ever run. That's independent praise, not marketing spin, and the gun deserves it. It's loaded with real features too. A stock you adjust for length, comb, drop, and cast, a melanite-treated barrel, and it runs the common Beretta and Benelli choke threads. So why is it dead last? 2 hard facts. It only takes a 3-inch shell, so the big goose magnum is off the menu before you even start. And it's heavy, right around 8 full pounds, which is a real chore to haul all day through the uplands. A couple of testers also noted more muzzle flip than the soft recoil numbers would suggest. At a price north of $1,500, and what you've got is a superb, soft shooting duck gun that's too heavy for the long walk and too short in the chamber for the biggest geese. On a one-gun does-it-all test, it fits the fewest worlds. That's all last place means here. Number 12, the Benelli Ethos Cordoba. And this one climbs above the Savage for a simple reason. It does its one thing better than almost anything on this list. It's a high-volume dove and clays machine, ported to hold the muzzle down through a long string, light and quick in the hands. If your idea of heaven is a case of shells on an Argentina dove field, this gun was built for that exact afternoon. It's dressed like a flagship, too. A carbon fiber rib to cut weight up top, swappable fiber optic front sights, and a little shell view cutout on the magazine tube so you can count your rounds at a glance. Benelli's rust-proof coating means it'll shrug off a salt marsh, but it fails our test the same way the Savage did, just from the expensive end of the rack. It only takes a 3-inch shell, no big goose magnum. And Outdoor Life said plainly that it's not a dedicated duck gun and that you'll feel a box of 3-inch magnums in a gun built this light. Like a lot of Benellis, it tends to shoot a touch high, which matters more for turkey than for a swinging dove. You're paying well over $2,000 for a gun that is magnificent at dove and clays and merely okay at everything else. That's a specialist priced like a flagship. Buy it knowing precisely what it is and what it isn't. Number 11, the Beretta A300 Ultima. Now we start climbing for real, because this is the best gas gun you can buy for under $1,000, and I don't say that lightly. It's built on the bones of Beretta's old 391 workhorse. It's soft shooting the way gas guns are, and Field & Stream called it an excellent sub-$1,000 duck gun. If your budget stops hard at $900, and you still want Beretta reliability under your cheek, here it is. It comes in camo for the blind, patterns turkey loads well enough, and swings light enough for a dove field. It lands at 11 for one single reason, and it's the rule that's going to sort this whole list. 3-inch chamber only. No 3.5. It's a great duck gun, a capable turkey gun, a pleasant upland gun. But the Goose Magnum world is off the table. For a huge number of hunters, that's completely fine. For the one-gun crown, it's the same thing that dropped the 2 guns below it. Buy it as a superb value duck and dove gun, just not as the do-it-all answer. Number 10. The Mossberg 940 Pro. And here's where I owe you an honest argument, because feature for feature, dollar for dollar, this might be the most gun on the entire list. A gas action. Oversized controls you can run with frozen, gloved hands. A stock you can fit to your own body for length and drop. It's cut for a red dot straight out of the box. The internals are coated in boron nitride to shed carbon. The stock adjusts for length and drop, and the lineup splits into purpose-built versions. A waterfowl, a longer magazine snow goose that holds a dozen plus, and a turkey model set up for an optic. All of it for around $1,000. In a vacuum, it's fantastic. But it only takes a 3-inch shell, no 3.5. And by the test, I said at the top, that's the goose world capped. Now the honest divergence I owe you, right here where it stings the most. A lot of serious goose hunters have quit 3.5 entirely. Modern 3-inch loads got so good that plenty of guys, and a real chunk of the gun press with them, will tell you the 3.5 requirement is flat out outdated, except for snow geese over the spread. If that's you, throw out this knock and move the Mossberg up your own personal list. I'm holding the line that a true do-it-all should chamber the biggest shell made. But I'm telling you plainly, it's a line experienced hunters step over every season. And this is the gun that best shows you why I audit the spec sheet. Mossberg advertises 1,500 rounds between cleanings. That is a factory torture test claim. Two things cut against it. First, Mossberg's own owner's manual tells you to clean the gun thoroughly every 500 rounds. Their marketing and their manual disagree by a full 1,000 rounds. Second, an independent tester set out to hit that 1,500 number and had cycling failures well short of it and called it a stretch. And a field report from a longtime owner is worth hearing. He ran one 940 Pro to 1,361 rounds, dead clean, bought a second one, and that second gun started choking on ejection at 300 rounds until he cleaned it. Same model, wildly different mileage. So clean it like the manual says, not like the billboard says, and it'll serve you a long time. Number 9, the Stoeger M3500, the cheapest gun here that still swallows a 3.5-inch shell. And with that shell, we cross into the guns that clear the goose gate. It's inertia-driven, not gas. And since that split runs under the entire back half of this list, let me plant it right now. Gas bleeds off some of the shot's energy to work the action, which softens recoil and feeds light loads easily, but it asks for more cleaning. Inertia uses the gun's own recoil to cycle. Fewer parts, runs cleaner for days, lighter in the hands, but it kicks a little harder and wants a firm shoulder and enough shell to work. The Stoeger is inertia, done on a budget, around $700 to $900, chambered in 3.5, offered in 24, 26, and 28-inch barrels and full camo with a steel recoil reducer in the stock. American Hunter said it'll go from the dove field to the goose pit with a detour through the turkey woods. For a man's first serious semi-auto, that's a strong sentence. What the low price costs you is partly a field report you need before January. The finish and trigger are heavy and plain. Fine, it's a budget gun. But in one freezing cold torture test, a crew had the charging handle and the bolt release physically break in extreme cold, the worst showing of the guns they froze. And with the recoil reducer installed, it won't cycle the lightest dove loads until you pull it back out. A lot of capability for the money, with a cold weather question mark. You weigh hard if your season is January up north. Number 8, Retay, the Masai Mara, and the lighter Gordion. Turkish-built inertia guns that are, in plain terms, close copies of the Benelli system, with one clever fix. They solved the little bolt click that Benelli owners grumble about, using a battery latch, and Field & Stream said it fills a real need and comes in about $150 under the comparable Benelli. The Gordion starts around $800 and runs light, about 6.5 pounds, while the Masai Mara comes chambered all in 3.5 and drops its whole trigger group out at the push of a button for cleaning. That is a lot of shotgun for the money on paper. The picture from the field is mixed, and I won't smooth that over. Some owners flat love them. Others report individual guns shooting low and going back to Retay, and the guns want a minimum shell to cycle. The lightest target loads are a problem, especially in the 20 gauge. There's no true left-handed option. So call it what it is, a value find with a quality control lottery attached. Most buyers win that lottery, some don't. If you like the inertia idea and can't stomach Benelli money, the Retay is a real answer. Just pattern it early and buy from a shop that'll take it back if yours is one of the off ones. Number 7. The Browning A5 Wicked Wing, and specifically its sweet 16 gauge. This is the gun for the purist I promised to make room for. The Sweet 16 is the best pure upland pointer on this whole list, no contest. A hair over 6 pounds. It comes up like it grew out of your arm. It swings fast on a bird that flushes before your brain's caught up. If your season is grouse and quail and woodcock behind a good dog, this might be your number 1, and I'd tip my hat to that choice. Because remember, the do-it-all crown is for the man buying one gun, not the man who hunts one thing and wants the best tool for it. So why is the A5 down at 7? Because that 16 gauge bore that makes it a dream in the uplands is the same thing that caps it in the marsh. You're not reaching for the big goose magnums with a 16. The 12 gauge A5 does take 3.5 and runs Browning's recoil-driven kinematic drive action clean and fast. It brings back that unmistakable humpback receiver, wears a Cerakote finish on the wicked wing, and channels kick down and away from your face with Browning's inflex pad, all backed by a 100,000 round guarantee. But it's a $2,000 gun, and one independent tester pulled light target cycling jams out of a brand new 3.5-inch model until it broke in. No left-handed version, no 20 gauge. As a pure bird gun, it's one of the finest things here. As a one-gun answer, it's a specialist wearing a general's coat. Number 6, the Weatherby Sorix, and this one is here to answer the hunter who hears the name Weatherby and thinks bolt action rifles, not shotguns. I get the reflex. That's the name they built. But the Sorix is an inertia shotgun built in Italy by a real shotgun house and finished in Wyoming, and Field & Stream's tester said the gun shot right where he looked, put its pattern close to dead on, and at $1,500 sat a bit below comparable inertia guns, and that he'd give the 20 gauge version strong consideration if he were shopping. That is not a polite shrug. It takes 3.5. It's Cerakoted against the weather. It's drilled and tapped for optics. It runs light, about 7 pounds in 12 gauge, a hair over 6.5 in 20. And Weatherby's shift system lets you move the controls to the left side yourself at no extra charge, a lefty feature that usually costs money or just doesn't exist. The catch is the inertia tax one more time. An independent test found the 20 gauge wouldn't reliably cycle the lightest target loads unless you held the gun loose, and it's a brand new design with no long durability record yet. As a plain value fact, it delivers a lot of what a $2,000 Italian gun delivers for a quarter to a third less. Whether it holds up over 20 hard seasons, nobody can promise you yet, because it hasn't been out 20 seasons. Number 5, the Franchi Affinity 3.5. Here's a secret the price tag works to hide. Franchi lives under the same corporate roof as Benelli, and the Affinity runs the same style of inertia system. You are buying most of the Benelli's guts for around $900. It's light, it's slim, it carries beautifully all day for upland. It takes 3.5 for the geese, and it comes in a trim 20 gauge for the walkers too. Franchi's 2-piece loading port speeds up feeding shells in the field, the stock adjusts for drop and cast, and it's backed by a 7-year warranty. Outdoor Life said flat out that it works like a premium gun for half the premium price. On paper, that's a do-it-all gun at a working man's price, and that's why it clears the guns below it. The knock is the inertia tax again, and it's a consistent one. A number of owners report the Affinity won't reliably cycle the lightest target and dove loads until it's fully broken in, and a few report it, staying stubborn after that. Label that a field report, but it's the classic inertia trait, a firm shoulder and enough shell, or at short strokes. The fit and finish is a clear step below the Benelli it borrows from. But if you shoulder it and it fits you, you're getting the large majority of a $2,000 gun for well under half the outlay. Number 4, the Browning Maxus 2, and this is where the top of the list starts to feel genuinely close. It's a gas gun, Browning's power drive system. Soft shooting, it takes 3.5. It now accepts a magazine extension for the snow goose crowd, and Field & Stream called it one of the biggest and most pleasant surprises in their entire waterfowl test. One independent crew ran over 350 shells through it and called it the softest shooting production gun they had tested, period. That's a real finding, not a slogan off a box. So, what keeps it at 4 instead of higher? A field report you should know before you spend. That same crew had repeated failures with one specific brand of steel shot. The gun ran perfectly with 2 other brands and choked on the third. A gas gun that's picky about ammunition is a gun you have to feed carefully. And out in the marsh, you shoot whatever's in your bag, not whatever the gun prefers. Stack on a price, pushing $2,000 in the top finishes, without an inertia gun's lightness or a left-handed option, and it lands just behind the value and the sure-footedness of the guns above it. Owners love theirs, and that's real. But loyalty isn't the test. Doing all 3 jobs without an asterisk is the test. Number 3, the Winchester SX4. And I'll say this plainly, because this gun gets shoved down, lists it has no business being at the bottom of, the SX4 is the best value in a do-it-all gun on this entire list, full stop. It's a gas gun with a self-adjusting valve that reads the load for you. It takes 3.5-inch shells, and Outdoor Life's own tester put it flatly. There are better duck guns out there, but for the money the SX4 is unmatched, and you get the same reliability you'd get from guns costing twice as much. It won their value award and outpatterned everything in its price bracket. Where does it fall short of the top 2? 2 honest knocks. The finish is crude. It looks and feels like the budget gun it's priced as, and Outdoor Life said as much. And the 3.5-inch models can get finicky cycling the very lightest target loads. That's a field report from the waterfowl forums, not a lab result, but it comes up enough to mention. It also pinches your thumb loading it, though you'll only do that once. For around $1,000, with a real left-handed model, most brands never bother to build. The SX4 does all 3 jobs at half the price of the podium. It's not the best gun here. It might be the smartest buy here, and those are 2 different sentences. Number 2, and it's the one a lot of you have been waiting to see, the Benelli Super Black Eagle 3. This is the truck half the marsh already drives to work. It's inertia, so it runs dead clean for days without a brush touching it. It's lighter than the gun that's going to beat it. It takes 3.5, and Benelli's newer surface coating carries a 25-year guarantee against rust, which in a salt marsh is not nothing. For a man who hunts 3 days in the mud and never opens a cleaning kit, this is the gun. And here's the divergence I want you to argue with me about. A big slice of the gun press, and half the men in any duck blind, will tell you the SBE3 belongs at number 1. They're weighing the marsh heaviest. And for the marsh, they've got a real case. If you hunt ducks and geese 80% of your season, buy the Benelli and don't look back. And tell me in the comments if that's you, because I already know a lot of you are going to put it first, and you won't be wrong to. So why does it sit at 2? 2 truths. First, inertia kicks harder than gas. Same shell, more felt recoil, and that shows up on a long upland day and on the clays course. Second, a documented report you deserve before you spend $2,000. For several years, a lot of SBE3s shot high and left of point of aim. An independent reviewer documented close to 1,000 guns sent back to Benelli as unusable, and Benelli often returned them, saying they were within spec. And their published spec does allow the pattern to land a fair bit high. Newer production looks corrected, and plenty of owners never had a lick of trouble. But you pattern any Benelli before you trust it. Street price runs around $1,800 to $1,900, more for the rust-proof version, which leaves number 1, the gun that fails at nothing, the Beretta A400 Xtreme Plus. It runs a gas system, and that is the whole reason it takes the crown. Gas bleeds off a little of the shot's energy to cycle the action, and that same bleed softens the kick and lets the gun run everything from a 1-ounce dove load up to a 3.5-inch goose magnum without you touching a thing. It takes the big shells, so the goose world is covered. It comes in 26, 28, and 30-inch barrels. The finish is Cerakote over an anti-corrosion treatment Beretta calls Aquatech Shield, so the salt marsh won't eat it over a season. It's drilled and tapped, so a turkey optic bolts right on. It's the only gun on this list I can say does all 3 worlds without a footnote. Now the marketing, because number one gets audited hardest. Beretta says its recoil system cuts felt kick by up to 70% and that the action cycle's 36% faster than the gun before it. Those are factory numbers. Nobody outside Beretta has strapped this gun to a sled and measured 70%. When Field and Xtreme ran it against the best duck guns in the country, their testers' finding was that no other gun in the test matched its low recoil and that the system really works. But he put no number on it, and one reviewer said outright it was impossible to tell if it was truly 70%. So here's the version you can bank on. The A400 is one of the softest kicking guns money can buy, and that part is real and independently confirmed. The exact percentage is a slogan, not a measurement. Owners back the feel, not the figure. Hunters who run this gun describe loading everything from light target loads to heavy goose, shooting cases of shells without blowing through a shoulder, clay targets through geese, and with a red dot, deer and turkey out of the same gun. That's the do-it-all promise, delivered. So where's the catch? Because there's always one. Weight. Field and Xtreme and Outdoor Life both put a scale under it and got 7.8 pounds. Heavier than it feels in the shop. Outdoor Life came right out and said it is not an upland gun, that it's clumsy to carry all day, and it's not cheap. Figure around $1,850 at the counter in 2026. It wins the do-it-all crown outright. But if your whole season is walking behind a dog, you'll feel every one of those ounces by lunch, which is exactly why the Sweet 16 and the SX4 exist further down this list. So there's the ranking, and here's the honest bottom line, because I'd rather you spend right than spend loyal. Go back to how we started. The $1,000 gun that does everything is the Winchester SX4, and the $2,000 gun that can't chamber a goose magnum is the Ethos Cordoba. Price told you nothing. The test told you everything. If you're buying one gun to do all of it, the Beretta A400 Xtreme Plus is the one that fails at nothing, and you pay for it in weight and money. If your season is mostly the marsh, the Benelli Super Black Eagle 3 is the gun half of you will call number one, and you won't be wrong. If your season is mostly boots and a dog, the Sweet 16 will make you a better wing shooter than any all-arounder here. And if budget is the boss, the SX4 does the whole job for around $1,000. The only thing it can't do is look expensive. And notice the split that ran under this whole list. Gas versus inertia. Gas kicks softer and feeds light loads better and asks for more cleaning. Inertia runs cleaner and lighter and asks for a firmer shoulder and a heavier shell. The press is split down that same seam, and so is every duck camp in America, which is your clue that there's no single right answer, only the right answer for the way you actually hunt. The one-gun crown goes to the Beretta. But if you've got room in the safe for two, the move a lot of the best hunters make is a light inertia gun for the walk and a soft gas gun for the blind, and let each one be great at one thing instead of good at everything. Whatever you buy, pattern it before you hunt it, especially the Benellis, and spend for the way your season really looks, not the way a spec sheet wishes it did.